This is a video to describe how to calculate interaction effects for multiple regression. We'll be doing this with both continuous variables and with dichotomous variables. You cannot create interaction terms between categorical or ordinal variables that have more than two levels with use with multiple regression, because multiple regression assumes that all of the variables are interval or ratio level. We can treat dichotomous variables as interval level because there's a single interval. To calculate interaction terms, we're going to end up multiplying two predictors together. So for the regression that we're going to be conducting, we are going to be multiplying female times school type. Both of these variables are scored dichotomously, so we can generate a simple product of those terms. To do that, we go to transform, compute variable. The variable that we're going to create is called gender times school type, and we compute that by just multiplying gender, which is female in this case, times school type right here. We click OK, and it will create a new variable for us that will be zeros, ones, and twos, because we are multiplying values that are either 0 and 1 for gender and 1 and 2 for school type. To create interaction terms between interval level variables, such as the interaction between math and science scores, or between reading and math scores, we can calculate a product. So let's say that we are trying to predict math scores by using reading and by using science, and we're really interested in the interaction between reading and science. One of the things that we can do is we can create a product of those two variables, reading and science. So to do that, we go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, go to Descriptives. And the easiest way of doing this without having to center our variables and create entirely new variables is we can just standardize the variables that we're interested in and then multiply those standardized values together. So the values that we're interested in multiplying together are going to be reading and science. Okay, so we're going to be creating standardized variables for reading and for science. So they will have a mean of 0, and we will be able to multiply the products. We'll be able to multiply these new standardized scores together to create an interaction. So since all we're really interested in is creating these new variables, we don't really care about the output for them. We can get rid of any requests for output. And click OK. And it will have created two new variables, the standard score for reading and the standard score for science. So what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply these two variables together to get an interaction term for standardized reading and standardized science. This is the same thing as we would do if we were creating centered interaction terms, but in this case we have created standardized variables which are essentially doing the same thing. So again, we just create a product. We're going to compute variables. In this case, it's going to be the product of z reading times z science. Get rid of that other one. So we're going to send z reading times z science and click OK. And we have our new product. So now we have a product for gender times school type and a product for reading by science. So we have two interactions. One interaction that is between two dichotomous variables and another interaction that is between two interval level variables. So we can run a regression to see to what extent those interaction terms improve our prediction. We go to regression, linear. We're trying to predict math scores from reading and science and from gender and type of school. That's at the first level. And the second level, to be able to figure out whether the interaction terms have some unique value. We click on Next, and we add the two interaction terms, gender by school type, and standardized reading times standardized science. And we would make sure that we have all the appropriate statistics and options clicked here, but for illustration purposes, I'm just going to click OK. So what we see is in the first stage, we're explaining about about 50.7% of the variance, and after the second, we are only explaining 50.4. So we are not gaining anything new by adding our new variables in there. We have to make sure that when we are determining an interaction term that we have all of the variables that are being used to compute the interaction terms already as part of the model. And what we can see here is that our two interaction terms were not significant in terms of improving the prediction. These two variables, the interaction between gender and school type and the interaction between reading and science, were not significantly different from 0. That's the introduction to using interaction terms as part of multiple regression.